Yes, people, what's going on? What's going on? We're back, man. We're back. Listen, nice weather in the UK at the minute. Listen, at the minute, I'm not as stressed, about my club. We've actually been playing well at the minute, which is weird. It's annoying, it's come towards the end of the season where we've seen these performances improve. But I'm just praying that we finish the season off well and hopefully finish in the top 6, man. But as always, listen, people, make sure that you smashed up the likes. Make sure that you're subscribing to the channel. Road to 1K. Road to 1K, man. Me and Goonie did a live the other day. If you haven't watched the video, make sure you catch up on it. It was a really good conversation that we had, man. I really like speaking to Goonie, man, because at the end of the day, as much as I don't agree with certain things that he says, there's a lot of things that we agree with. You know what I mean? And for me, he can be quite polarized at times with things. But me, I try to be a little bit more level-headed, a little bit more rational. And when he's in his rational bag, listen, he can talk football and he knows his stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? But big him up every time for coming on, man, because we got some good feedback on that video. I loved interacting with you guys in the comments as always. So make sure that you keep it coming, man. As much as this is my channel, listen, it's our channel, innit? Do you know what I'm saying? And we're gonna grow together. So make sure, like I said, you always comment. I love answering you guys' questions. I love interacting with you guys, getting your thoughts. You don't have to agree with everything that I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'm just a fan, just like you guys, and you're gonna have different opinions to me, But as long as you're respectful in the comments, you're not getting personal or anything like that. I'll always interact and always hear it from other people's point of view, because at the end of the day, we all view the game differently. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's why we love the game. Do you know what I mean? But I thought I'd release a quick video, man, because obviously we've seen the news about Estevao to potentially to Chelsea. At the minute, he's accepted terms with Chelsea, of course, but we're yet to at the time of recording at the minute, we're yet to get the here we go from Fabrizio. Do you know what I mean? But this is a player that when we were first linked to him and I saw the clips and whatnot, I know you listen, pinch of salt when it comes to clips, but when I saw that, I said to Goonie the other day, I get the exact same feeling I get as when I watched Payers for the first time, when I saw the clips of Payers, So, again, we'll get into him in a little bit more detail. I've done a little bit of research on him. I've got a little plug at the minute where it allows me to watch players, you know what I'm saying? So that's something that I'm going to be doing quite a lot of because, I want to make sure that I can speak about this guy confidently before he even comes to the club, because, when it is with South American football, the time zones are different, man. Like when they're playing, it's a little bit too late. It's hard to catch their games. Do you know what I'm saying? And I don't like just going off of clips, because clips only show you a little bit of the player, in my opinion. There's only so much you can take from clips because they only show the best bits. Do you know what I mean? But luckily, I've been able to pattern something where I can actually see all actions in the game. Do you know what I'm saying? So hopefully that should help me be able to scout these players and look at these players properly and whatnot, without just the highlights that you see on Twitter, without the highlights that you see on YouTube. Do you know what I mean? So that's something that I'm excited about, because I've got a lot of ideas of content that I want to do in the summer. Do you know what I'm saying? And at the same time, I want to speak about Boehly as well, man. Because as always, Todd Boehly, when he comes out, he seems to have the fan base split down the middle. You've got a lot of people at the minute on Chelsea Twitter or on the timeline complaining about some of the things that he said in this one-to-one that he sat down with in West Hollywood. And you've got some people that, like myself, who don't really see where this outrage is coming from, because a lot of the things that he said, I hear what he's saying and I can see he's thinking around it. You know what I mean? Because as much as we want to be winning trophies, end of the day, Chelsea has to make sure that it's bringing in as much revenue as possible to make sure that we can be paying the best players the best wages that we can. I know the wages have dropped, but there's always going to be exceptions to the rules for players like Osimhen, players like Nkuku and whatnot. Do you know what I mean? And at the same time, making sure that we can be competitive as well when it comes to buying top talent. If you're not bringing in the money, when these players come around and they're available in the market, we're not going to be able to get them. Do you know what I'm saying? We're going to be looking like FSG and whatnot, where they're a little bit tight about going in for these big signings. Do you know what I'm saying? And even then, these people that are trying to crash it on Todd again, they're going to be the same people complaining, well, why can't we go buy this player? Or why can't we go and buy that player? Do you know what I mean? But let's start off with the first quote, man. He says here, I think that winning is at the top of the things that's most important when you're attracting a new fan. The key is to have something that's really aspirational. And he also spoke about the global group of players from Argentina to Brazil. So it says here, we've got a global group of players from Argentina to Brazil. And part of the long-range plan will be really to extend the brand as much as possible to build a fan base, because ultimately, the larger our fan base grows, the more competitive we'll be able to be, because these salary caps are based on revenue. And listen, this is what I'm saying. I'm seeing people getting angry about this. Oh, Chelsea are just an asset to you guys. What's this about brands? What's this about trying to expand? And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, yo, why wouldn't you want your club to try and generate as much equity and as much business as they can? Because like I said already, it's going to help us in the long run. You know what I mean? Obviously, you've got a lot of people at the minute that have made up their mind about the ownership. For me, like I've said, you know, if you go back to the pod that me and CB did, they've made a lot of mistakes, you know, but these aren't mistakes where I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, yo, they can't be rectified. A lot of what needs to be done can be easily rectified in the summer, you know, by bringing in a little bit more experience and by bringing in a striker for sure, you know. Like I've said, you can go back to that pod that I did with CB and we speak about it in a little bit more detail. This team needs a shape up. Like I said, I think it needs a little bit more experience. And I think it definitely needs a striker. You know, like I said, the pod that me and CB did, we'll go into it in a lot of detail in terms of how you know, things can be rectified. But at the same time, as much as they've done a lot of bad, there is a lot of good that I like that they've done. You know, some of the players that they've brought in, you know, the Gustos, the Cole Palmers. Obviously, you've got Kendrick Pyers, like I've said. This guy looks like he's a special player. You know, Estevao, like I've said, we'll speak about him. Another one that's looking like going to be a special player. You know, they're bringing in this guy from Brentford to start next season because of the set piece problem that we had this year. So there's a few things where I can give them credit. But end of the day, they need to make sure that, you know, I'm giving them more credit than negativity, if you want to call it that, going forward after this summer. I really hope they've learned from their mistakes. You know what I mean? But end of the day, you know, like Todd Boehly said here, we've seen the last 2.5 games, at least in the second half, at Aston Villa and Tottenham and West Ham, where we played just beautiful football. It was so fluid. It was exactly the way we drew it up. When we came out of the back, built up, and we moved up the pitch. Very organized, and a number of shots we had on board. In those 2.5 games, you could really start to see what we were working on coming together. Even if I get my words out, even a commentary has changed over the last 2.5 games. I've never seen anything change so quickly. And surprise, surprise, I'm seeing a lot of fake outrage on the timeline about this. Oh, Todd, are you gonna forget about all the other games that we've played this season? Oh, it's all coming together now, is it? Because of 3 games. And if you read between the lines, that is not what he's saying. He clearly says here, we drew it up. It was exactly the way that we drew it up. Because for me, how I'm reading that is when they built this squad in the summers predominantly, and obviously in January as well, they built it and they kind of visualized it to be the way we're playing at the minute. Do you know what I'm saying? And that goes down to the coach, like I said earlier. Poch, I feel like, has hoodwinked them a bit because in pre-season, he was showing us something where even rivals were saying, yo, Chelsea looked like they're going to be different this season, and Chelsea looked like they could potentially cook something. And for me, I'll be real with you. I still think we could have potentially got top 4 if Poch was sticking to that system. Because we've barely even seen our strongest team this season, you know, been so bad, but we can still finish in the top 6. You know, and we're not even far from top 4, really and truly. Because if you think about some of the games that we've lost this year, how we've lost them, the lack of in-game management, the missed chances, you know, the poor lineups, which have just been a waste of time. I think we could have won a lot more games. I can think of Forest at home, we lost. West Ham away, we lost. You know, Brentford, we drew. Burnley, Sheffield, we dropped points. There's just so many games that I'm looking at and I'm thinking, yo, if this guy just did what we're doing right now, would have won a lot more games. And that's what I kept saying about these guys. Listen, as much as they're not Chelsea level, they're not useless players. If you set them up correctly, they will play better. They will play better. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm with Todd Boehly on this one. I can't lie. This is what they visualize the team to be like. And like I said, this is how a lot of Chelsea fans visualize the team to be like. But then we completely went away from it in the season. Poch decided to abandon all his principles. So I don't see why people are getting angry at this. And he even says here as well, I've never seen anything change so quickly. That goes to show how many flip-flops there are in this fan base. How many flip-flops there are. To be honest, not even just the fan base. In football in general, you get that because football fans are very fickle. Very, very fickle. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't take much for people's opinions to change. And at the minute, a lot of people are slowly starting to like, oh, maybe it was a little bit harsh on the players. Okay, maybe these players aren't as bad as what we thought. Okay, yeah, maybe Poch was affecting it a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? So, listen, like I've said, for me, I don't see anything wrong with what he said here because at the end of the day, this is how we should have been playing predominantly during the season. And this is exactly why Poch's job is still up in the air at the minute. You know, like it says here, Chelsea will decide whether Pochettino stays or goes just days after the Bournemouth match. Sorry, his season in charge is expected to be judged in its entirety together. So it's still up in the air at the minute if Poch is going to be here. You know what I mean? And for me, like I've said, if Poch was using this system throughout the season and it was the players that kept letting him down, I think he would have a lot more time from the fans and I think he'd have a lot more time from the ownership. I highly doubt that you would hear a lot of the reports that you're hearing this year, where Chelsea are looking at this manager and Chelsea are looking at that manager, you might hear a few whispers here and there. But if, as a fan base, collectively, we could see that there was progress being built, then our thoughts around him will be completely different. And for me, listen, I'm still happy seeing the back of him. I'll be honest, because he's broken my trust. He's embarrassed me this season. He's had me fighting for my life against rivals, trying to convince them that these players are not as bad as what they are. But then week after week, we're dropping points. Week after week, they're just being, crap in front of goal. Week after week, mediocre performances. But again, like I've said, it all goes back to how we've been set up predominantly this season. Do you know what I mean? So listen, Todd Boehly, good on you, man. Good on you for coming out and obviously speaking about, some of the plans that we've got at the minute. How we can continue building the brand, how we can continue to expand the fan base, and like I said, how we need to be playing going forward. I don't understand how this can be a negative. To me, I only look at it in a good light. I look at the business side of things, and he's also spoken about the football. This is the first time I haven't heard Poch go into tactics this deep. Todd Boehly talking about fluidity and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? This is the guy that doesn't know anything about football. You know what I mean? So it was good. It was good to see that. I can't lie. But let's speak about man like Messinho. That's what they're calling him. Yeah, Willian Estevao. And Fabrizio tweeted, Chelsea have reached a verbal agreement with Willian Estevao on personal terms. Told the initial bid still to be sent, but it will be around 32 million euros plus add-ons, as talks with Palmeiras will follow. Nothing done yet, but Chelsea remain the clear favourites since January. And this came out today as well. Chelsea want to seal Estevao deal as soon as possible after personal terms agreed, as reported. Negotiations underway with Palmeiras, while Chelsea want to get it done in the next days to avoid any surprises. Chelsea believe his generational talent, and it's also a big opportunity. So listen, like I've said, for me, I don't know much about this player. Obviously, I don't watch South American football, but like I said, he looks like someone who just on that right-hand side will just create problems for so many defenders. So many defenders. I love players that play like this, with freedom, with personality, you know what I mean, with flair, with that Brazilian flair. There's someone that plays over there at United. I'm not going to name his name. I think you guys know who I'm talking about. And this guy does not play like a Brazilian. He tries to play like a Brazilian, but he can't even beat his man. But this guy here, when he's running at guys, the way I'm seeing him just dropping grown men, people will tell you, oh yeah, but he's playing in Brazil and whatnot. To be doing this at 16, 17 against grown men that are fully developed, because think about it, his body itself, physically, he hasn't reached his final stage yet. He's still got a couple more years to grow into his body and get bigger. Do you know what I'm saying? But how he's cooking these guys, I'm seeing him running past guys, the skill that he uses, his the way he strikes the ball, right foot, left foot, free kick, dead ball situations. It looks good. It looks really, really good, man. And I'm glad that we're looking at this sort of talent. When it comes to young players, like I've said, please bring this sort of talent. Kendrick Pires, Estevao, guys that look that they're polished for their age, and it's not going to be a crazy amount of work that needs to be done to get them to a certain level, because they look like they're too good for under 18 football or under 23 football, and they're ready for first team football and they're 16, 17. That's crazy. Do you know what I'm saying? So again, this is a guy that I'm all for. I'm all for, man. And listen, if we sign him and Kendrick to come in 2025, I really hope that the club decides to fast track these guys, man, because honestly, they both look like they're just going to be world beaters. They look like they're going to be world beaters. I can't even lie, But then there's problems at the minute on that right-hand side, because, it does seem like Chelsea are stockpiling. So I do get that side of the argument as well. On the right-hand side, we've got Madueke. We've got Palmer that can play there. You have Kendrick Pires that can play there. If Estevao comes in, you're going to have him there as well. You've got Mario Hutchinson. You've got Angelo. There's a lot on that side. So it's getting really, really heavy. And not everyone's going to make it, unfortunately. That's just the harsh reality of it. Not everyone's going to make it, But for me, how I kind of look at it, I'm looking at Estevao and Pires. I can definitely see them working in the same team. Pires, you can play more centrally whilst you leave Willian on the right-hand side. People will say, oh, how about Cole Palmer? Listen, these guys can be learning from Cole Palmer, because by that point, Cole Palmer is obviously going to be, he would have been at the club for, he would have been at the club for 2 seasons. He would have been at the club for 2 seasons. So he'll be someone that they'll be looking up to. And hopefully at that point, we might have picked up a trophy here and there. Do you know what I'm saying? He's come from treble winners, Cole Palmer. He has that mentality for these guys to thrive from. And he can ball like them. Obviously, not as good as them in terms of the Joga Bonito, but he's got flair himself. You know what I'm saying? They'll look at him and say, this is a baller. This is the guy that we want to play with as well. Do you know what I'm saying? So end of the day, when you're playing with a lot of quality, competition is only good. It's only good. Obviously, you can't have too many people, like I've said, because at the minute, we are stockpiling. And unfortunately, some of these guys are going to get loaned out. And some of these guys eventually will get sold. You know, but unfortunately, this is part of business. If there's certain guys that aren't going to make it at the club or we can make profit on them, you know, I'm here for it. Because like I said, not everyone's going to be able to make it. But as long as we can bring in more money than what we brought them in for initially, again, it's part of the business model. You know what I'm saying? People will say, oh, but, you know, you're just buying all this talent and you're wasting them. I don't want any players to get wasted. That's why if we're not going to use them, I'd rather we just move them on. You know, loan them once or twice and then just move them on and let them, you know, build their career. But hopefully we give them that platform to do that, because at the minute we've got the multi-club model, you know, that we're trying to build at the minute. We've got Strasbourg there. Obviously, Angelo's over there. Strasbourg has been injured second half of the season, so we didn't really see much of him. He started off quite well, to be fair. Similar to Andre Santos. I was hearing a lot about Angelo at the start of the season. And in pre-season, he really impressed me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still going to keep an eye out on him. But listen, it's a healthy headache to have, innit? It's a healthy headache to have. And people forget, man, these guys are going to be 18. They've got a lot of years. It doesn't mean that they need to get thrown in and be starting week in, week out at 18. You know, if we've got to bleed them in, that's what we've got to do. Similar to Vinicius at Real Madrid. He didn't start playing straight away all the time. Do you know what I'm saying? He wasn't at that level, you know? Hopefully, these guys are better than him, than what he was at that time. But they've still got time on their hands. They're only going to be 18 years old. And hopefully, when we make Europe as well, they'll have a lot more games. And that will allow for some of these players to get a lot more game time. Do you know what I'm saying? But for me, like I've said, if you're at a club that is winning, you're not going to get a lot of people complaining really about game time like that. Look at Pep. Look at Pep. When did you ever hear Mahrez and that really complaining, or Foden and that really complaining? You know what I mean? You might see Payet start a certain game against a certain opposition. You might see Estevao start a certain game. Then you see Madueke start a certain game. Do you know what I mean? There's certain ways of going around it. And like I said, for me, this has to be the last right winger. The last right winger that we're going to get, because there's just too many on that side. There's too many in it. Do you know what I mean? But end of the day, it's football, man. It's tough. People don't want to hear that. It is tough. Not everyone's going to make it. But the best of the bunch will make it at the club, in my opinion. Will make it. And Estevao and Payet, listen, these two, I could definitely see them making it at Chelsea. You know what I mean? And it seems like we're building a little South American little thing that we've got going on at the minute. Do you know what I'm saying? But listen, people, that was just a quick vid, man. Just to share my thoughts on what I think of the whole Todd Boehly situation and obviously Willian Estevao. At the time of recording, I haven't had the here we go yet, as of yet, from Fabrizio. So as soon as that lands, obviously, we'll see if we can chop it up a little bit more. Preview to come out. I'm actually going to do a preview of man like Dor on tour. He's a Forest fan, so he's going to join me on my channel live, and we'll be speaking about the game. And yeah, just chopping up as usual, as we do every single week. But listen, people, let me know your thoughts in the comments as always. Smash up the likes and love. Peace.